The stars looked different near Neptune. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel, Horizon, staring at the massive ship that had just appeared on their sensors. It was unlike anything humans had ever seen before. The alien vessel was made of crystal that seemed to glow from within, casting purple and blue light into the darkness of space. "Captain, they're sending a signal," said his communications officer, Sam Park. The young man's hands shook slightly as he worked at his console. This was humanity's first real contact with an alien species. Jake took a deep breath. He was 35 years old, with brown hair starting to show gray at the temples. He had trained for this moment his entire career, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality of it. "Put it through the universal translator," he ordered. A melodious voice filled the bridge. "Humans of Earth vessel, we are the Zelathi. We come in peace. Our High Priestess wishes to meet with your leader." Jake looked at his crew. Lisa Chen, the ship's biologist, was already pulling up everything they knew about first contact protocols. Amy Rodriguez, their pilot, kept her hands steady on the controls. Everyone was nervous, but ready. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon," Jake replied. "We welcome peaceful contact. How should we proceed?" "Prepare your docking bay. Our High Priestess will come aboard with 2 guards. We mean no harm to your people." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the docking bay with Lisa and 4 security officers. The air shimmered, and 3 figures materialized before them. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The aliens were tall, very tall. The one in the center, who must have been the High Priestess, stood nearly 8 feet in height. Her skin seemed to glow with a soft inner light, shifting between pale blue and silver. She wore flowing robes that moved like water, and her eyes were large and completely black, like pools of midnight. The 2 guards were smaller, perhaps 7 feet tall, and Jake noticed something strange. They seemed less vibrant somehow, their glow dimmer than the High Priestess. "I am High Priestess Lyra of the Zelathi," the tall female said. Her voice was beautiful, like music and speech combined. "You are Captain Jake Morrison. We have watched your kind for many of your decades." Jake stepped forward, trying not to show how nervous he felt. "Welcome aboard the Horizon, High Priestess Lyra. This is Dr. Lisa Chen, our chief biologist." Lisa bowed slightly, unsure of the proper greeting. The High Priestess tilted her head, studying them with those dark eyes. "May we speak privately, Captain? What I have to share is of great importance to both our peoples." Jake led them to the conference room. As they walked, he noticed how the High Priestess moved with incredible grace despite her height. The guards followed silently, their faces expressionless. In the conference room, Lyra sat carefully in a chair that was too small for her. Jake sat across from her, with Lisa beside him. "Your species is young," Lyra began. "What kind of help?" Jake asked. Lyra's glow dimmed slightly. "My people are dying, not from war or disease in the way you might understand, but from something far worse. Our males are failing. Each generation, fewer are born. Those who are born are weak, producing fewer offspring. We face extinction within 100 of your years." Lisa leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her nervousness. "A genetic bottleneck? How long has this been happening? 300 of your years?" Lyra replied. "We have tried everything. Our science, our medicine, even our prayers to the ancient stars. Nothing has worked. Then, we discovered your people." She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "We studied your broadcasts, your history, your biology from afar. Humans are unique. Your genetic diversity is remarkable. Your ability to adapt and survive is unlike any species we have encountered." Jake joined her at the window. Standing next to her, he felt very small. "What exactly are you asking us to do?" Lyra turned to face him. And Jake felt something strange. It was like a tickle in his mind. A gentle touch that wasn't physical. "I apologize," Lyra said quickly. "My people are telepathic. I did not mean to touch your mind without permission. It is difficult to control when we are emotional." "You can read minds?" Jake asked, taking a step back. "Not read. Exactly. We sense emotions, intentions. With practice and permission, we can share thoughts. But I will not do so without your consent." Jake relaxed slightly. "Thank you. Now, about this help you need?" Lyra returned to her seat. "Our sacred texts speak of a prophecy. They tell of children from distant stars who would come when the Zalathi faced their darkest time. The prophecy says these children would carry the gift of renewal in their blood." "You think humans are these prophesied children?" Lisa asked. "We are certain of it. Your genetics show compatibility with ours in ways that should be impossible. We have run thousands of simulations. Human DNA could strengthen ours, could save our species." Jake felt his heart racing. "Are you talking about reproduction between our species?" Lyra's glow brightened. "Yes, but not in the way your kind reproduces. We have a sacred ritual, the joining of essence. It combines genetic material in our sacred pools. There is no physical mating as humans understand it." "Why me?" Jake asked. "Why did you come to my ship specifically?" Lyra stood again and approached him slowly. "May I show you something? Captain, I will need to touch your hand." Jake hesitated, then nodded. Lyra's hand was warm and smooth, larger than his own. The moment she touched him, images flooded his mind. He saw a planet with 3 moons hanging in a perpetual twilight sky. Cities floated above seas that looked like liquid silver. He saw the Zalathi in their glory days, millions of them. Their cities full of light and life. Then he saw the decline. Empty streets. Ceremonies with no children. The sadness of a dying people. Lyra released his hand. "I have been having visions of you, Jake Morrison, since before your kind reached the stars. In my dreams, I saw a human male with eyes the color of Earth's oceans and courage in his heart. I saw him standing beside me as our peoples created something new. Something that would save us all." Jake's mind was spinning. "This is a lot to process." "I understand," Lyra said. "I do not expect an answer immediately. But know this: you have been chosen not by me, but by the universe itself. Your genetic markers are perfectly compatible with our needs. Of all the humans we have observed, you are the one most likely to help us succeed." "What would this ritual involve exactly?" Lisa asked, her scientific mind working through the implications. "The chosen human would come to our homeworld of Thesara. There, they would undergo 3 trials to prove their worthiness. Tests of intelligence, courage, and compassion. If successful, the ritual would take place in our most sacred temple. The human's genetic essence would be combined with that of selected Zalathi in the pools of creation." "And the offspring?" Jake asked. "Would be raised by both species. They would be bridges between our peoples, carrying the best of both human and Zalathi heritage. They would have our telepathic abilities and longevity, combined with human creativity and adaptability." Jake looked at Lisa, who seemed as overwhelmed as he felt. This was beyond anything they had imagined when they left Earth to explore the outer solar system. "I need to discuss this with my crew and report to Earth Command," Jake said finally. Lyra nodded. "Of course. But understand, Captain, time is precious to us. Every year we wait. More of our males fail to produce viable offspring. We have perhaps 1 more generation before the point of no return." She moved toward the door, then turned back. "I know this is difficult. Your people are young and have not yet faced extinction. But I have seen what humans can do. You survived ice ages, plagues, Wars that should have ended you. You adapted, evolved, and thrived. That is why we believe you can save us." As the Zelathi prepared to return to their ship, Jake walked with them to the docking bay. "High Priestess, one more question. Why reveal yourselves now? You could have remained hidden." Lyra's black eyes seemed to look through him. "Because hiding would mean accepting death. The Zelathi choose life, Captain Morrison. We choose hope, and our hope rests with humanity." With that, she and her guards vanished in a shimmer of light. Returning to their crystalline ship, Jake stood in the empty docking bay, knowing that everything had just changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they had been asked to save an entire species. The weight of that responsibility was enormous. But as Jake returned to the bridge and looked at his crew, he saw determination in their eyes. Humans had always risen to meet impossible challenges. Perhaps this was just the next step in their journey among the stars. The planet Thesara hung before them like a jewel in space. Jake Morrison stared through the viewport of the Zelathi transport ship, his mouth open in wonder. 3 moons orbited the world, each one a different color: silver, gold, and deep purple. They created a constant twilight on the planet's surface, neither fully day nor night. "It's beautiful," Lisa Chen whispered beside him. She had insisted on coming along as both a scientist and a friend. The Earth government had agreed, wanting someone to document everything about this historic moment. High Priestess Lyra stood behind them, her tall form reflected in the glass. "Thesara has been our home for 50,000 of your years. Once, our cities covered every continent. Now, only a few remain populated." As their ship descended through the atmosphere, Jake saw the floating cities. They hovered above vast seas that looked like liquid mercury, held aloft by technology he couldn't understand. Spires of crystal reached toward the sky, glowing with the same inner light as the Zelathi themselves. "How do they float?" Lisa asked, pressing her face against the window like an excited child. "Our ancestors learned to harness the magnetic fields of our planet," Lyra explained. "The cities ride on currents of energy that flow between the 3 moons. They landed on a platform extending from the largest city, which Lyra called Luminos. As Jake stepped out of the ship, he felt strange. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, making him feel like he might float away if he wasn't careful. The air smelled different too, sweet and metallic at the same time. Hundreds of Zelathi had gathered to see them. Jake noticed immediately that most were female, tall and glowing with that strange inner light. The few males he saw were indeed smaller and dimmer, just as Lyra had described. "The human has come," voices whispered in the crowd. Jake realized he could understand them, even without the translator. Somehow, their telepathic abilities made their meaning clear. Lyra led them through the city. Buildings rose around them, made of the same crystal as their ships, but in every color imaginable. Some Zelathi watched from balconies high above, their dark eyes curious and hopeful. They arrived at an enormous structure in the city's center. "The Hall of Judgment," Lyra announced. "Here, the council will meet you, and your trials will begin. Thanks for watching. This finally century, the Hall of Judgment, they have where." They arrived at an enormous structure. Inside, the ceiling stretched so high it disappeared into shadows. 7 Zelathi sat on elevated platforms, each one wearing robes of different colors. The one in the center, wearing pure white, stood as they approached. "I am Elder Siona," she said, her voice carrying the weight of great age. "We have waited long for this day. Human Jake Morrison, you stand before us as a candidate for the ritual of joining. Do you understand what this means?" Jake stepped forward, trying to look confident despite his nerves. "I understand that your people need help, and that I might be able to provide it. I'm ready to face whatever trials you require." Elder Siona studied him with those bottomless black eyes. The trials are not mere tradition. They ensure that only the worthy can participate in the sacred ritual. Many Zelathi have failed these tests. Are you certain you wish to proceed? I'm certain, Jake said, though his heart was pounding. Then, we begin with the trial of mind, Elder Siona announced. You will solve the puzzle of the ancients. It has stood in our temple for 20,000 years. No off-worlder has ever attempted it. They led Jake to a chamber where a massive crystal structure stood. It was made of hundreds of pieces that could be moved and rotated. Symbols covered each piece. Some looked like star maps, others like mathematical equations, and some Jake couldn't identify at all. The puzzle tells the story of our people's journey through the stars, Lyra explained. You must arrange it to show the path from our origin to our destiny. You have until the silver moon sets. Jake walked around the puzzle, studying it from every angle. Lisa started to offer help, but Elder Siona raised a hand. He must do this alone. Everything it is now there. For hours, Jake worked. He moved pieces, studied the symbols, tried to understand the logic. The Zelathi watched in silence. Sweat ran down his face as he struggled with sections that seemed impossible. Then something clicked in his mind. The symbols weren't just random. They were coordinates, star positions. He began moving pieces faster, seeing the pattern now. The puzzle was a three-dimensional star map showing the Zelathi's journey across the galaxy. As the silver moon touched the horizon, Jake placed the final piece. The entire structure lit up, projecting a holographic map of the galaxy above them. A golden line traced a path from a distant spiral arm to Thesara. The council members looked at each other in amazement. He has solved it faster than many of our own, Elder Siona said. The trial of mind is complete. But there was no time to rest. They took Jake to the outskirts of the city, where the crystal buildings gave way to a wild area of strange vegetation. Plants that looked like giant ferns glowed softly in the twilight, and Jake could hear sounds of creatures moving in the shadows. The trial of courage, Lyra announced. In this forest lives the Nethek, a creature sacred to our people, but dangerous to those who show fear. You must retrieve a scale from its hide and return. Is it large? Jake asked, trying to see into the dark forest. Larger than any predator on your Earth, Lyra admitted. But remember, it respects courage, not aggression. Do not try to fight it. Jake entered the forest alone. The plants seemed to move around him, and he heard whispers in languages he didn't understand. After walking for what felt like hours, he reached a clearing. The Nethek was there, and Jake's breath stopped. It was massive, the size of an elephant but built like a cat. Its scales shimmered with every color of the rainbow, and 6 eyes arranged in pairs looked at him with alien intelligence. Claws as long as his forearms scraped against the ground. Jake's every instinct screamed at him to run. Instead, he forced himself to walk forward slowly. The Nethek rose to its full height, towering over him. A low growl rumbled from its throat, making the ground shake. I mean no harm, Jake said quietly, hoping the creature might understand his intent, if not his words. I need your help to save the Zelathi. The Nethek circled him, its 6 eyes never blinking. Jake stood perfectly still, controlling his breathing, refusing to show the fear that threatened to overwhelm him. The creature's hot breath washed over him, smelling of ozone and copper. Then, surprisingly, the Nethek lowered its massive head. One loose scale, the size of Jake's palm, fell to the ground at his feet. The creature gave what might have been a nod before disappearing into the forest with impossible silence for something so large. Jake picked up the scale with shaking hands and made his way back. The council was waiting, and their expressions showed genuine surprise when he emerged unharmed. The Nethic has not gifted a scale freely in 300 years, Elder Siona said. You have passed the trial of courage with distinction. The final trial came the next day. They took Jake to what looked like a hospital, where injured and sick Zelathi lay in beds of woven light. Many were males, weak and fading. The trial of compassion, Lyra said softly. These are our people who suffer from the genetic plague. You must spend a day caring for them, seeing our pain firsthand. Some humans might consider this trial the easiest, but many have failed when faced with the reality of our suffering. Jake moved among the sick, and what he saw broke his heart. Young Zelathi males, who should have been strong and vibrant, lay weak and dim. Their inner light flickered like dying candles. He helped feed those too weak to feed themselves, changed bandages of light that seemed to ease their pain, and sat with those who just needed company. One young male, barely an adult by Zelathi standards, grabbed Jake's hand weakly. Through the touch, Jake felt the depth of his despair, knowing he would never father children, that his genetic line would end with him. Will the ritual really save us? The young male asked. I'll do everything in my power to help, Jake promised, meaning every word. By the end of the day, Jake understood the true scope of the tragedy. This wasn't just about species survival. It was about ending the suffering of countless individuals who faced a slow, inevitable decline. When he emerged from the hospital, tears ran down his face. The council stood waiting, and Elder Siona approached him. You have completed all 3 trials, she said. More than that, you have shown understanding of what we face. The ritual can proceed, if you are willing. Jake wiped his eyes and stood straight. After what I've seen, how could I refuse? When do we begin? Lyra's glow brightened with hope. Tomorrow, when all 3 moons align, you will enter the pools of creation, and our peoples will take the first step toward a shared future. That night, Jake stood on a balcony overlooking the floating city. Lisa joined him, having spent the day studying Zelathi biology and preparing for the ritual. Are you ready for this? She asked. Jake looked up at the 3 moons, slowly moving toward alignment. I don't think anyone could be fully ready for something like this. But those people in the hospital, they're dying, Lisa. If I can help save them, I have to try. 1. Lisa put a hand on his shoulder. You're a good man, Jake Morrison. Earth chose the right person for this. As the moons continued their dance across the twilight sky, Jake prepared himself for the next day. The ritual would change everything, for him, for the Zelathi, and for humanity's place in the universe. But after passing the trials and seeing the suffering of these people, he knew there was only one choice he could make. Tomorrow, 2 species would begin the journey to become 3. Jake Morrison couldn't sleep. Tomorrow's ritual occupied his every thought as he paced his guest quarters in the Crystal City. The room was beautiful but alien, with walls that shifted color based on his emotions. Right now, they swirled with nervous yellows and uncertain grays. A soft knock came at his door. Come in, he called. Lisa Chen entered, carrying a data pad and looking excited despite the late hour. Jake, you need to see this. I've been in their archives all day, and I found something important. She sat beside him on what passed for a couch, though it molded itself to their bodies in an unsettling way. Look at these medical records from 300 years ago. See the pattern? Jake studied the holographic displays floating above the pad. They showed Zelathi genetic sequences, health data, population numbers. The decline started very suddenly, he noticed. Not gradually. Over time. Exactly. Lisa's eyes shone with discovery. This isn't natural genetic drift. The change happened within a single generation. Jake, this looks like biological warfare. Jake felt his blood run cold. Someone did this to them on purpose? I need to check more records, but if I'm right. Lisa trailed off as another knock sounded. High Priestess Lyra entered, having to duck through the doorway. Her glow seemed dimmer than usual, tinged with sadness. "Forgive the late intrusion. I sensed your distress, Jake Morrison." "Lisa found something in your archives," Jake said. "We think your genetic plague might not be natural." Lyra moved to the window, gazing out at the three moons. "You have discovered what some of us have long suspected, but could never prove. Please, continue your investigation. The truth, however painful, must be known." She turned back to them, and Jake saw something like tears in her dark eyes, though they glowed instead of glistening. "I came to share something else with you, Jake. Something about the dreams that led me to you." Lyra waved her hand, and the room filled with holographic images. Jake saw himself, but younger, on Earth. He saw moments from his life, joining the space program, his first launch, the day he became captain of the Horizon. "I have watched your life unfold in visions for 10 of your years," Lyra said. "At first, I thought I was going mad. Why would the universe show me an alien male from a world we had only observed from afar? But the dreams were clear. You were the one who would save us." "And why me specifically?" Jake asked, still uncomfortable with the idea of destiny. "I do not know all the universe's reasons," Lyra admitted. "But I have seen glimpses of what you will help create. Children who bridge our worlds. Cities where humans and Zelathi work side by side. A future where the barriers between species matter less than the bonds we forge." She approached Jake slowly. "May I show you what I have seen?" Jake nodded, and Lyra placed her large hand on his forehead. The visions flowed through him like a river. He saw hybrid children playing in gardens that grew both Earth and Zelathi plants. He saw himself older, teaching young beings who had his eyes but Lyra's glow. He saw peace where there might have been conflict, understanding where there might have been fear. When she removed her hand, Jake was breathing hard. "That's beautiful. But visions aren't guarantees. Are they?" "No," Lyra agreed. "They are possibilities. We must work to make them real." The next morning, Lisa burst into Jake's quarters before dawn. "I was right. Jake, I found buried records. 300 years ago, the Zelathi were at war with something called the Vorthok Empire." Jake sat up quickly. "Lyra never mentioned a war. Because they thought they won," Lisa said grimly. "The Vorthok retreated after a major battle. But look at this timeline. The genetic plague started exactly 18 months later. The Vorthok lost the war but launched a biological weapon as revenge." "We need to tell the council," Jake said, already getting dressed. They found the council in emergency session. Lyra had sensed their discovery and called the meeting. Lisa presented her findings to the assembled elders, showing the evidence on holographic displays. Elder Siona's glow turned deep red with anger. "The Vorthok swore peace treaties. They promised the conflict was over. They lied." Another elder said bitterly. "They knew they could not defeat us in battle, so they chose a coward's weapon. One that would kill us slowly, over centuries." "Where are the Vorthok now?" Jake asked. "They control 3 systems near our border," Lyra answered. "We maintained the peace treaties even as we died, hoping to spare our remaining people from war." Jake felt his own anger rising. "They're probably watching, waiting for you to go extinct so they can take your worlds without firing a shot. If this is true," Elder Siona said slowly, "then the ritual becomes even more important. We are not just saving our species from a natural disaster. We are defeating an enemy's attempt at genocide." "There's more," Lisa added. "I've analyzed the weapon's design. It's sophisticated, but not perfect. Human DNA isn't just compatible by chance. Our genetic structure is almost perfectly designed to counter what the Vorthok did. It's like the universe provided an answer," Lyra finished. The revelation changed the mood in the city. Word spread quickly among the Zelathi that their plague was not their fault, not some failure of their species, but an attack by an old enemy. Jake saw anger, but also renewed hope. They weren't dying because they were weak. They were survivors of a terrible weapon. As the three moons began their alignment for the ritual, Jake found himself in the preparation chambers. Zealoty attendants helped him into ceremonial robes that felt like liquid starlight against his skin. Lisa was there, making final medical checks. Your genetic material will be combined with samples from 12 Zealoty females, Lisa explained. The process creates embryos that will grow in artificial wombs. The children will have DNA from both species, but they'll be something entirely new. No pressure, Jake said with a nervous laugh. Lyra entered, wearing robes of pure white that made her glow even brighter. It is time. Are you ready, Jake Morrison? Jake nodded, though his heart raced. They walked together to the Temple of First Light, the oldest structure in the city. Thousands of Zealoty lined the streets, watching in silence. Some reached out to touch Jake as he passed, and through each contact, he felt their hope and gratitude. The temple interior took Jake's breath away. The pools of creation were not what he expected. 7 pools of liquid light were arranged in a circle, each one glowing a different color. They seemed to contain liquid starlight, swirling with galaxies in miniature. The council stood around the pools, chanting in their ancient language. The 3 moons aligned perfectly overhead, their combined light streaming through the crystal ceiling to illuminate the pools. Step forward, Elder Siona commanded. Jake walked to the central platform. Lyra stood across from him, and 11 other Zealoty females took positions around the pools. All were volunteers who had chosen to be part of this first attempt. The ritual will not hurt, Lyra assured him through their mental connection. But you will feel strange. Your essence will touch ours across the bridge of space and time. Elder Siona raised her hands. We gather in the light of 3 moons to forge a new path. Human and Zealoty. Separate no more. Let the joining begin. Jake felt a tingling sensation as the pools began to glow brighter. Energy flowed from them, surrounding him in ribbons of light. It didn't hurt, but it was overwhelming. He felt his consciousness expand, touching something vast and ancient. He sensed Lyra's mind, and through her, the minds of all Zealoty present. Their hopes, fears, dreams, and desperate need to survive flowed through him. And they sensed him too. Humanity's drive, creativity, stubbornness, and endless capacity for growth. The genetic extractors were so gentle Jake barely felt them. Microscopic samples of his DNA were drawn out and carried by the light to each pool. There, they merged with Zealoty genetic material in a dance of chromosomes and possibilities. Jake watched in awe as the pools began to show shapes within them. Not fully formed beings, but the promise of them. The beginning of something new. It's working. Lisa breathed from her observation point. Her scanners showed genetic sequences combining successfully, creating stable hybrid genomes. The ritual reached its crescendo. Jake felt a connection snap into place, not just with Lyra and the other Zealoty, but with the developing life in the pools. He was part of them now, and they were part of him. As the moons passed out of alignment, the energy slowly faded. Jake swayed on his feet, exhausted but exhilarated. Lyra caught him before he could fall. It is done, Elder Siona announced, her voice filled with wonder. The joining is successful. New life grows in the pools. The temple erupted in celebration. Zealoty embraced each other, their glows brightening until the whole chamber blazed with joyful light. Jake found himself passed from one grateful Zealoty to another, each thanking him in their musical voices. How long until they're born? Jake asked Lisa, when he finally reached her. 6 months, she said, grinning widely. Jake, the readings are incredible. These children will have immunities to both the Vorthok weapon and most Earth diseases. They'll be telepathic but also have human intuition and adaptability. They're going to be amazing. Lyra approached them, her glow now steady and bright with hope. You have given us more than survival, Jake Morrison. You have given us a future, and perhaps justice against those who tried to destroy us. Jake looked back at the pools where new life grew. What happens now? Oh. Now, Lyra said, taking his hand. We prepare. These children will need both peoples to guide them, and the Vorthok will learn that their weapon has failed. The Zelathi will not fade into extinction. Instead, we will emerge stronger than before. As they left the temple, Jake realized his life would never be the same. He was a bridge between worlds, a father to a new form of life, and part of something greater than he had ever imagined. The stars looked different now. They held not just wonder, but purpose. And somewhere among them, the Vorthok waited, unaware that their ancient weapon had just been defeated by the one thing they never expected. And the endless adaptability of life itself. The Vorthak ships appeared on the sensors 3 months after the ritual. Jake Morrison stood on the command deck of the Zelathi defense station, watching the display with growing concern. 15 vessels, all heavily armed, moving in formation toward Thesara. They know, High Priestess Lyra said beside him. Her glow flickered with worry. Somehow, they learned about the successful ritual. Jake studied the enemy formation. The Vorthak ships were ugly things, all sharp angles and weapon ports, painted black to blend with space. Nothing like the elegant crystal vessels of the Zelathi. How long until they reach us? Jake asked Commander Torin, one of the few healthy Zelathi males. 2 days at their current speed. Torin replied. His hands moved over the controls weakly. Even the strongest Zelathi males, tired quickly now. Amy Rodriguez burst through the door. Jake had called for his best pilot when the threat was detected, and Earth had sent her immediately. Captain, I've been studying their flight patterns. The Vorthak move like they're following a textbook, very predictable. That could be useful, Jake mused. How many ships do the Zelathi have? 12. Lyra answered. But only 5 are fully operational. The others lack enough healthy males to crew them properly. Jake felt the weight of command settling on him. The Zelathi Council had asked him to help coordinate their defense, knowing human tactical thinking might give them an edge. But 12 ships against 15, with most crews weakened? The odds weren't good. I need to see everything you have on Vorthak battle tactics, Jake said. Amy, I want you to start training Zelathi pilots in human evasion techniques. Lyra, can your telepaths link with our minds during battle? Yes, but it requires trust and practice, Lyra said. Your minds are different from ours. More chaotic. Then we'd better start practicing, Jake said. We have 2 days to turn chaos into an advantage. The next 40 hours were intense. Jake worked with Zelathi commanders, studying records of past battles. The Vorthok fought with cold precision, following strict formations and predetermined attack patterns. They were disciplined but inflexible. Amy taught Zelathi pilots maneuvers that would have been considered insane by their standards. Barrel rolls, sudden stops, deliberately flying into sensor-blind spots. The Zelathi were horrified at first. This is madness, one pilot protested. There is no order, no pattern. Exactly, Amy grinned. If you don't know what you're doing, how can the enemy predict it? Meanwhile, Lisa Chen worked with Zelathi scientists to boost their shields. If we modulate the frequency randomly, she explained, the Vorthak weapons will have to constantly adjust. It'll buy us time. On the morning of the battle, Jake stood before the combined human-Zelathi crews. 3 humans among hundreds of Zelathi. But their presence had already changed things. He could see it in how the Zelathi stood straighter, glowed brighter. "The Vorthak think you're weak," Jake said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "They think their weapon has already defeated you. They're wrong. You've survived 300 years of their poison. You've found allies in the stars. And today, we show them that the Zelathi are far from finished." A cheer went up, musical Zelathi voices mixing with human shouts. Jake felt Lyra's mind touch his, sharing her pride and determination. The first Vorthak message came an hour before battle. A harsh, grating voice filled the communication channels. "Zelathi vessels, you will surrender your world. Your species is ended. Do not force us to destroy what remains." Jake took the communication controls. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of Earth, speaking for the Zelathi Human Alliance. You have one chance to withdraw. Your biological weapon has failed. Leave now, or face the consequences." Silence. Then cruel laughter. "Humans? You ally with dying creatures? You will share their fate." "We'll see about that," Jake muttered, cutting the connection. The battle began at the edge of Thesara's outer moon. Jake commanded from the lead Zelathi vessel, with Lyra beside him, to maintain telepathic links between ships. Amy flew with the Zelathi fighter squadron, while Lisa monitored systems from the science station. "Vorthok ships entering weapons range," Torin reported. "All ships pattern Chaos 1, Jake ordered. It was a name Amy had suggested for their new tactics. The Zelathi fleet scattered in seemingly random directions. To the Vorthak, it must have looked like panic. Their ships hesitated, trying to process the unexpected movement. "Now!" Jake commanded. The scattered Zelathi ships suddenly converged on the Vorthak flanks, firing in coordinated bursts. 2 enemy ships took heavy damage before they could react. "They're reforming," Torin warned. "Standard attack pattern 3. Jake smiled grimly. "Lyra, tell our telepaths to link with Amy's mind. Let's show them some real chaos." "Kintant, Lyra, Canes of State, 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 Canes of State." What followed was unlike any space battle in Zelathi history. Amy's fighter squadron moved like a swarm of insects, no 2 ships following the same path. But through the telepathic links, they coordinated perfectly, always knowing where their allies were. The Vorthak computers couldn't track them. Weapons fire went wide as fighters appeared where they shouldn't be, attacked from impossible angles, then vanished into sensor shadows. "Their formation is breaking," Lisa reported. "Jake, I'm reading power fluctuations in their lead ship." "All ships, concentrate fire on their command vessel," Jake ordered. "Pattern Chaos 5. This was their most daring maneuver. Half the fleet dove straight at the Vorthak center while the others seemed to flee. The enemy ships turned to pursue what looked like retreating vessels, exposing their command ship. Jake felt Lyra's mind merge deeper with his. Her calm presence, steadying his human excitement. Through her, he sensed every Zelathi in the fleet, all working as one despite the apparent disorder. The Zelathi ships that had seemed to flee suddenly reversed course, catching the pursuing Vorthak from behind. Meanwhile, Jake's group hammered the command ship's shields. "Direct hit," Torin shouted. "Their command ship is venting atmosphere." But the Vorthak weren't finished. Their remaining ships regrouped, forming a tight sphere of overlapping weapons coverage. It was a defensive formation, but nearly impregnable. "They're learning," Jake admitted. "Amy, any ideas?" Amy's voice crackled over comms, breathless from intense flying. "Give me 3 volunteers who aren't afraid of getting really close." 3 Zelathi pilots responded immediately. Through the telepathic link, Jake felt their determination. They were older males, already weakening from the genetic plague. They knew they might not survive many more battles. "What are you planning?" Jake asked. "Trust me, Captain. Sometimes, You have to get inside their comfort zone. Amy led her volunteers in what looked like a suicide run straight at the Vorthok sphere. Enemy fire concentrated on the 4 small fighters, but they jinked and weaved, using every trick Amy had taught them. Then Jake understood. The Vorthok were so focused on the fighters that they didn't notice the larger Zalathi ships moving into perfect firing positions. All ships, target their engine sections, Jake commanded. Fire. The combined fleet opened up just as Amy's fighters cleared the enemy formation. The Vorthok sphere shattered as ships tried to maneuver with damaged engines. 3 more enemy vessels were disabled in the chaos. Incoming message from the Vorthok fleet, Torin announced. The same harsh voice, but now tinged with fear. We demand ceasefire for negotiations. Jake looked at Lyra. Through their link, he felt her anger at these beings who had tried to destroy her people. But he also felt her wisdom. This is Captain Morrison. You have 5 minutes to withdraw beyond the outer moon. Any ship remaining after that will be destroyed. You cannot defeat the Empire, the voice snarled. We will return with 100 ships, and you'll find 1,000 hybrid children ready to face you, Jake replied. Your weapon failed. The Zalathi have evolved beyond your reach. 5 minutes. The remaining Vorthok ships limped away, several trailing debris. 8 of their vessels had been destroyed or disabled, while the Zalathi had lost only 2 ships, with 3 damaged but repairable. As the enemy fled, Jake felt the telepathic network explode with joy. Zalathi crew members embraced, their glows bright with victory. Amy's fighter performed a victory roll that made even Jake dizzy to watch. We did it, Lyra said softly. For the first time in 3 centuries, we defeated them. This was just the beginning, Jake warned. They'll be back. Let them come, Commander Torin said. Despite his weakness, he stood proud. We have something now we didn't before. Hope, and allies who teach us that sometimes chaos is stronger than order. Back on Thesara, the celebration lasted through the night. Jake found himself the center of attention, with Zalathi of all ages wanting to touch his hand and share their gratitude through telepathic connection. Lisa showed him data from the battle. Jake, do you realize what happened out there? The telepathic link didn't just coordinate tactics. It actually improved reaction times. The human creativity combined with Zalathi telepathy created something neither species could do alone. The hybrids will have both abilities naturally, Jake realized. They'll be even better at this than we are. Lyra approached, her glow soft and warm. The Council wishes to make you an official defender of Thesara. Will you accept? Jake looked up at the 3 moons, then at the celebrating Zalathi around him. These people had become important to him. The children growing in the pools were part of him. Earth would always be home, but he had family here now too. I accept, he said. But we need to prepare. Train more pilots. Build more ships. The Vorthok won't accept this defeat. Then we will be ready, Lyra said. Humans and Zalathi, together. They tried to divide us with death. Instead, they united us in life. As the celebration continued around them, Jake began planning. The battle was won, but the war for Zalathi survival had just begun. With human innovation and Zalathi abilities combined, they would face whatever came next. The Vorthok had created their own defeat. In trying to destroy one species, they had created an alliance that would change the galaxy forever. 6 months had passed since the battle. Jake Morrison stood in the birthing chamber of the Temple of First Light, his heart pounding with anticipation. The pools of creation glowed brighter than ever before, and within them, shapes moved. Today, the first hybrid children would emerge. Lisa Chen checked her medical scanners one more time. All readings are perfect, Jake. They're ready. High Priestess Lyra stood beside the first pool, her hands trembling slightly. Around the chamber, the 12 Zalathi mothers waited, each one glowing with maternal warmth. They had all contributed genetic material, but Zalathi culture considered all children to be raised by the community. "Begin the emergence," Elder Siona commanded. The first pool's light intensified, and the liquid began to lower. Jake held his breath as a small form became visible. When the light faded, a child sat in the empty pool, looking around with curious eyes. She was beautiful. The child had human features, but with the distinctive Zalathi glow emanating from her skin. Her eyes were larger than a human's but smaller than a Zalathi's, and they held flecks of both darkness and light. When she saw Jake, she smiled and reached out her arms. Jake stepped forward and lifted her carefully. She was lighter than a human child would be, but heavier than he expected. The moment he touched her, he felt a gentle telepathic presence, not invasive, just a warm feeling of recognition. "She knows you," Lyra said softly. Even in the pools, they could sense their genetic parents. One by one, the other children emerged. 12 in total. 7 females and 5 males. Each was unique, showing different combinations of human and Zalathi traits. Some glowed brighter, others had more human coloring, but all were healthy, alert, and perfect. Lisa ran her scanner over each child. Their immune systems are incredible. The Vorthak plague can't touch them, and they have resistances to diseases from both our worlds. The Zalathi mothers came forward, each taking a child to hold. The birthing chamber, filled with a sound Jake had never heard before. Hybrid children laughing. It was like human laughter mixed with Zalathi musical tones, creating something entirely new. "What will you name her?" Lyra asked, gesturing to the child in Jake's arms. Jake looked down at the little girl, who was playing with his fingers. Through their touch, he felt her emotions: curiosity, contentment, and a deep sense of belonging. "Nova," he said. "It means a new star. That's what she is. A new light in the universe." Over the following days, Jake split his time between Earth and Thesara. The hybrid children grew faster than human babies, but slower than Zalathi young. By their second week, they were crawling. By the first month, walking. Their development amazed both species scientists. Amy Rodriguez had become the children's favorite visitor after Jake. She would fly her ship in complex patterns, while the children watched through the windows, their eyes tracking every movement with impossible accuracy. "They're going to be incredible pilots," Amy said. "Look how they process spatial movement. It's like they can see 3 moves ahead." The children showed other remarkable abilities. They could communicate telepathically with Zalathi and speak vocally with humans, often translating between the two without realizing it. Their play involved both human creativity and Zalathi harmony, creating games no one had seen before. But not everything was peaceful. Reports came in of Vorthak ships massing at their border. Jake attended strategy meetings with both human and Zalathi commanders. "They're building a fleet," Commander Torin reported. "Our spies count at least 60 ships. Earth is sending reinforcements," Jake announced. 20 ships will arrive within the month. "But we need more than military might." Lyra stood, addressing the mixed council. "The hybrids have given us proof that the Vorthak weapon has failed. Perhaps it's time to reveal this to the galaxy." 3 weeks later, Jake stood on a platform addressing representatives from dozens of species. The Galactic Council had agreed to hear the Zalathi case. Beside him, Nova played quietly with a toy that shifted between solid and light states. "For 300 years, Jake began. The Zalathi have suffered from what they thought was a natural genetic decline. We now have proof it was a biological weapon deployed by the Vorthak Empire. 1. He presented Lisa's evidence, showing the timeline, the weapon's design, and how it specifically targeted Zalathi males. Gasps and murmurs filled the assembly. "The Vorthak committed a war crime," Jake continued. They tried to commit genocide through patient destruction. But they failed. He lifted Nova, so all could see her. The children of two species now thrive where the Vorthak expected extinction. The Vorthak ambassador, a creature that looked like a mass of shifting shadows with eyes, rose angrily. Lies! The Zelathi seek to justify aggression against our peaceful empire. And peaceful? Jake laughed bitterly. You deployed a weapon designed to kill an entire species slowly, making them watch their children fade generation by generation. That's not peace. That's cruelty beyond measure. Nova, sensing the tension, reached out her small hand toward the Vorthak ambassador. Her glow brightened. And suddenly, everyone in the chamber could feel what she felt. Not hatred or fear, but simple curiosity about this strange being. The effect was profound. Dozens of species felt the pure emotion of a hybrid child, untouched by centuries of hatred. The Vorthak ambassador recoiled as if burned. The child. It's an abomination, he hissed. No, Elder Siona said, standing tall despite her age. She is evolution. She is proof that life finds a way, despite your best efforts, to destroy it. The Galactic Council voted overwhelmingly to censure the Vorthak Empire and provide aid to the Zelathi. Several species offered medical assistance and defensive alliances. The Vorthak found themselves isolated, their secret shame exposed to all. Within days, something unexpected happened. A Vorthak ship arrived at Thesara under a flag of truce. Not a warship, but a civilian transport. From it emerged Vorthak citizens, scientists, artists, workers who had opposed their government's actions. We did not know. Their leader, a younger Vorthak named Shifting Mist, said to the assembled council. Our government told us the Zelathi died from genetic weakness. Many of us wish to help undo this wrong. It was Lyra who responded first. Those who come in peace are welcome. The children show us the way. They hold no hatred for crimes committed before their birth. Jake watched in amazement as hybrid children played with young Vorthak, showing no fear of their shadowy forms. The children's telepathic abilities worked, even with the Vorthak, building bridges of understanding. Within 6 months, everything had changed. The hybrid children numbered in the hundreds as more volunteers underwent the ritual. Each generation showed new abilities, new possibilities. Some could manipulate light like their Zelathi parents but with human creativity. Others showed human adaptability enhanced by Zelathi longevity. Jake stood in a new city being built on Thesara's second continent. It was designed for all 3 species. Tall ceilings for Zelathi, human-sized facilities, and shadow spaces for the Vorthak who had chosen to help. Nova, now walking and speaking in both languages, held his hand. Papa, she said, a word that worked in both human and Zelathi languages. Why sky? Different. There. She pointed up at Earth's blue sky on a view screen, then at Thesara's perpetual twilight. Every world has its own sky, Jake explained. But we all share the same stars. Lisa approached with her latest report. Jake, the newest generation is even more remarkable. Some show healing abilities. They can actually repair the genetic damage in older Zelathi males. Not completely, but enough to improve their quality of life. The Vorthak weapon's final defeat, Jake said with satisfaction. Lyra joined them, her glow bright with contentment. The Council of 3 Worlds meets tomorrow. Earth, Thesara, and New Vorth have much to discuss. The Vorthak Empire had fallen from within after their crimes were exposed. Those who remained had reformed, creating New Vorth as a democracy. Many sought to atone for their past by helping the species they had tried to destroy. Who would have thought, Amy said, landing her ship nearby, that a reproduction ritual would lead to a galactic alliance? Jake looked around at the mixed gathering. Humans teaching Zelathi children Earth games. Zelathi sharing their music with human visitors. Reformed Vorthok, working alongside both species to build something new. The prophecy spoke of children from distant stars who would bring renewal, Lyra said. But I think it meant more than just biological renewal. It meant the renewal of hope, of cooperation, of believing that different species could be more together than alone. That night, Jake stood on the same balcony where he had made his decision to undergo the ritual. But now, he wasn't alone. Nova sat on his shoulders, her glow mixing with the light of the three moons. Around them, the city blazed with life. Not just zealothy life, but the combined light of three species learning to live as one. Tell story, Papa, Nova requested. About Earth and stars, and us. Jake smiled and began to tell her about humanity's journey to the stars, about the day they met the Zealothi, about how fear and hatred could be overcome by hope and new life. As he spoke, other children gathered, hybrid and human, and zealothi, and even a few young Vorthak. They were the future. Not just one species reaching for the stars, but many species reaching together. The Vorthak had tried to destroy that future with a weapon of division and death. Instead, they had created the catalyst for unity and life. Among the stars above, ships moved between worlds, carrying not warriors, but families. The coalition of worlds grew stronger each day, bound not by treaties or force, but by the laughter of children who knew no borders between species. The ritual of reproduction had become something greater, a ritual of renewal for the entire galaxy. And at the center of it all, a human captain who had answered an impossible call and found not just a purpose, but a family that spanned the stars.